Big Trouble in Little China might be Kurt Russell's cult classic, but there's more to the film than just that label, as the film has strongly impacted Hollywood and the idea of genre mashups. This mystical comedy that didn't impress viewers during its initial release ended up having a cult status, because many things worked for it better than people could have expected. And one of the things that really worked here was the wide range of characters portrayed by actors who went on to make their names in Hollywood. Let's take the Pork Chop Express to look at what happened to all the actors from Big Trouble in Little China and where they are now. Before we go into our explanation, we have a very small request. If you like our content, please support us by subscribing to our channel. This is a small click for you, but for us it means a lot. Thank you. Let's begin.
Goodbye, Mr. Burton.
Kurt Russell as Jack Burton. Let's get one thing straight. Jack Burton might be an accidental hero, but he's one of the most badass characters in cinema history. At a time when heroes were supposed to be smart, tough, and capable, Jack came with his sheer confidence and bad luck and completely flipped the formula. And ever since then, the hapless trucker with a mouth became a template for a new kind of hero. And over the years, we would see several Jack Burtons everywhere. You know the one we're talking about. A bit of Nathan Drake and a bit of Deadpool. They all carry the whiff of someone coming off the Pork Chop Express. And in the middle of it all, we have Kurt Russell, the man who made it possible, and was destined to be a star in every possible manner. Even though it was the case for most actors in the 80s, Russell didn't get a chance to vanish into the neon mist after Big Trouble in Little China. Even though the film's box office failure had a clear opportunity for ruining his career, the film became a cult sensation, and Jack Burton became a household name. So Russell continued trucking and stayed loyal to his creative partner, John Carpenter. It made sense because all of their collaborations, including Escape from New York and The Thing, became massive successes in the future. A Carpenter and Russell collaboration meant something cinema wasn't even prepared to hold back then. So the two came together again for the 1996 follow-up to Snake Plissken's adventure with Escape from LA, and even though it doesn't have the same fan following as the New York adventure, Russell and Peter Fonda surging through a tsunami felt like the most badass thing that only Russell could pull off. Even though it felt like the actor was meant for the action genre, Russell kept his fans surprised by giving a bit of every genre. From 1987's Overboard, where he paired up with Goldie Hawn for a screwball comedy, to the Ron Howard drama Backdraft from 1991, he proved he could carry emotional weight apart from throwing dialogue. Russell's choices proved his range as an actor. There was also the 1989 buddy cop film Tango and Cash, where he held his own next to Sylvester Stallone, proving once again that he was an action star worth watching. The movie did become a VHS staple. There were attempts at sci-fi with 1998's Soldier and 1994's Stargate, which spawned their franchises, even though Russell didn't seem interested in them. But what's memorable around this time was the 1993 film Tombstone, where we got to see Russell doing his take on Wyatt Earp, and it became a career-defining piece for the actor. Even though the late Val Kilmer gets the most badass lines as Doc Holliday, Russell's character binds the film together. Russell didn't have much trouble proving himself as someone with much more to contribute in the years to come. Even Quentin Tarantino probably enjoyed the Kurt Russell Western, because he brought him back in a deeper role, with 2015's The Hateful Eight, where Russell pulled his weight and grit as John Ruth, next to a cast of amazing characters. Soon he would become the most unexpected Hollywood franchise MVP, and this started when the actor joined Dom's family in the Fast and Furious franchise as Mr. Nobody. The shadowy, sunglasses-wearing spy master became the perfect addition to the franchise, right when it had started to get complicated, and there was a need for a cooler arc. But this won't be the last entry to a new franchise, as the actor would get to play Peter Quill's father, Ego the Living Planet, in Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2 from 2017. It's interesting to see the actor in a role like that, as there's an almost meta connection with Russell, since Peter Quill is basically Jack Burton with mixtapes. Ego might have given Star-Lord his powers, but there's no doubt that Jack Burton gave him his personality. Most recently, the actor almost did the handing over his legacy move when he starred alongside his real-life son, Wyatt Russell, in the MonsterVerse series, Monarch: Legacy of the Monsters. Both played the same character in different timelines, proving that the actor isn't surviving in Hollywood, he's evolving with it. So yeah, Kurt Russell is still surprising us with each and every role, and it won't be surprising to see him appear in a sequel to Big Trouble in Little China with the Pork Chop Express, because he can still pull it off. Dennis Dunn as Wong Chi. Casting Dennis Dunn and pairing him with Kurt Russell in what was supposed to be a blockbuster might sound like a big gamble, but it's quite clear that John Carpenter knew what he was doing. Wong Chi might have fumbled with his one-liners, but he did manage to soar across the screen like an absolute whirlwind, wielding some Reeboks. Following Big Trouble, Dennis Dunn would reunite with John Carpenter once again for Prince of Darkness, a horror film filled with elements of quantum physics and mirror dimensions. Once again, Dennis Dunn would ground the surrealistic story with his dry wit and relatable humor. human panic. Next, we would get a chance to see the actor's versatility in a short role in 1987's The Last Emperor from Bernard Bertolucci, and that epic ended up sweeping the Oscars. It was almost as if Dennis Dunn wanted to stray away from the martial arts fighter that people had started recognizing him for, since the actor followed that up with Wong's Dim Sum, A Little Bit of Heart, taking a much more subtle character. Later, the actor would pick his lane by making choices that allowed him to appear on TV and the stage in recent years. The actor has memorable roles in Alias, Midnight Caller, and Nash Bridges. Still, he gave us a celebrated performance in David Henry Hwang's Chinglish on stage, proving that his dramatic chops are absolutely captivating. So while this debate for who was the true protagonist in Big Trouble in Little China might still go on, we just know that Jack Burton needed Wong Chi to go through their bad week. Victor Wong as Egg Shen. Big Trouble would have been absolutely incomplete without Egg Shen's mystic glue putting together the kung fu fantasy comedy of the movie. Victor Wong pulled off the perfect voice of ancient wisdom, bus tour patter, and low-key sarcasm without trouble. The twitchy eyebrows, sly grin, and eternally bemused expression works perfectly to keep Jack and Wong at their places before they went into dealing with things that were absolutely beyond them. One thing that became clear about Victor Wong from this film is that he wouldn't be a side character in the narrative, but a scene stealer who brings a complete tonal shift. The actor reunited with Dennis Dunn and John Carpenter for Prince of Darkness. Once again, he had the vibe of Yoda in an arc that dealt with everything, ranging from the calm voice of wisdom to the quantum physicist priest with the coolest head in the room. However, the actor would make his place as the second best martial arts mentor next to Pat Morita by appearing as Grandpa Mori in the Three Ninjas franchise. While everyone thought that the movie was going to be another knockoff ninja flick, Victor Wong became the very factor that brought gravitas with his grandpa-level charm and a wise smirk. As a guy who could still kick ass at 70, the actor appeared in another cult favorite with his role as Walter Chang in the 1990s film Tremors, and if you haven't seen it, you better check it out. Victor Wong passed away in 2001, and the world almost became less magical. But then, there's always that tour bus going through San Francisco between myth and memory, and if you need some guidance, you better pick his best words from Big Trouble. You don't know, but it might just be the right pep talk you need. Kim Cattrall as Gracie Law. Gracie Law was one of the most interesting damsel in distress stories when Big Trouble came out, because she didn't seem like someone who needed rescuing. In fact, she was smarter than Jack Burton, always 2 steps ahead of Jack with her stubbornness, and even in the worst of circumstances, she didn't scream or faint, but rather schemed and fought. But that's just the beginning, because the actor first set base for Samantha Jones in her 1987 rom-com Mannequin, as a literal mannequin that managed to outcharm the entire film cast. Then she had the ultimate sci-fi cred by appearing in Star Trek VI, The Undiscovered Country, as the steely, enigmatic Vulcan Lieutenant Valeris. However, the role that people most associated with her came around 1998, with the Sex and the City series from HBO, and once Samantha Jones appeared on screen, the world never completely saw a cosmopolitan in the same way ever again. In a show that featured 4 leads, Samantha somehow carried most of the emotional punches beneath the punchlines, giving her arc the absolute authenticity. In fact, when the series was later brought back and the actor was nowhere to be seen in the new cast for, and just like that, the internet collectively lost its mind, and that's what you call cultural gravity. She would also appear on stage with Private Lives and a little bit of Shakespeare, reminding us that she's an actor in every sense of the word. Kim Cattrall managed to become a cultural phenomenon with her publicist character, a character that felt like an alternate version of Gracie Law at times. James Hong as Lo Pan. Lo Pan is the perfect villain for a movie that treads between the supernatural and the comedy. James Hong is the ideal actor for the role, as he delivers one of the greatest cinematic villains ever conjured. The actor brought the theatrical grandeur to the character that was rarely seen in the 80s movies, and to be very honest, Lo Pan is a mere brushstroke in the mural of James Hong. While Lo Pan was busy looking for a green-eyed girl to break his curse, James Hong was busy breaking the Hollywood curse, and over the years, the actor managed to rack up over 700 screen credits. From Blade Runner to Chinatown, the actor has a wide range that perfectly manages to become an important part of Hollywood lore. With characters as memorable as the films, it's not easy to forget Mr. Ping from the Kung Fu Panda movies, and the actor just makes sure that you don't, with his voice that was once used to dub old monster movies. Even though Hollywood gave him the typecasting treatment, he endured every single bit of that. Ultimately, he ended up elevating the concept and paving the way for Asian American performers in mainstream media. In 2022, the legendary actor received his Hollywood Walk of Fame star at 93 years old, and you'd be surprised to know that he's the oldest actor to ever receive this honor. The world can always use a little bit more of James Hong, and with his recent appearance in the Oscar-winning Everything Everywhere All at Once, there's a chance for even Lo Pan to return. James Hong is still working on rewriting the age-old rules of Hollywood, and no, he doesn't need any resurrection. Kate Burton as Margot. Margot barely managed to get her story across in Big Trouble because of the absolute chaos that was going on with the storyline. Still, the actor did manage to show a persona that very much supports Gracie's arc, as both pull off the journalist trying to uncover a scandal in an absolutely cool manner. But the movie doesn't get a chance to showcase the talents of this Yale-trained actor, who has since been nominated for several Tony Awards and even managed to carve out a successful career in television. The actor appeared as the formidable Ellis Gray in Grey's Anatomy, and then as the volatile Sally Langston in Scandal, showing her precision and power with these performances. Donald Lee as Eddie Lee. While the others were busy cracking cases and dealing with the supernatural, Donald Lee skimmed through all of this with style as Eddie Lee, and he definitely felt like the guy who could get things done. Eddie had all the inside scoop on Chinatown, and when everyone started panicking, he kept calm and brought the team together like glue with a knowing grin on his face. Donald Lee might not have carved a major career, but the actor appeared in some great films, like U.S. Marshals and Deep Core, but the only appearance you didn't notice was when he emerged as one of the names amongst the wide range of cameos in the Avengers, while appearing next to actors like Powers Booth as the World Security Council member. It seems like he might have had insight into the Marvel Cinematic Universe too, if Kurt Russell had asked for it. Jeff Emata as Needles. It's not easy to recognize Jeff Emata in Big Trouble because of his short appearance as a gang member, but this movie would mark the first time that John Carpenter would get a chance to work with Emata. The actor played an important part in ensuring the fight choreography and that the action looked good by going behind the camera, and ever since then, he's been the stunt coordinator in all of Carpenter's films. So Emata wasn't just throwing punches and making people throw punches, he was making sure that the language of the punches was also getting delivered. Since then, Emata has become a legend and served as a stunt coordinator, fight choreographer, and second unit director for everything from Fight Club to The Bourne Supremacy, and even The Matrix Reloaded. So the next time you see a hero perfectly nail the punch, there's a big chance that Jeff Emata had a hand in it. Leong as Wing Kong Hatchet Man. Remember that Fu Manchu mustache, flowing mullet, and face that looked like you're about to get your ass kicked from the Wing Kong crew? Yeah, that was none other than the legendary actor Leong, an unforgettable performer who can land the perfect glare, followed by an ideal spin kick without a single word, and become a memorable character to look out for. Action movie fans cannot forget the number of times the hero has been beaten up by this actor in almost every movie from the 80s and 90s, and somehow managed to develop a likable charm, even though he hardly had to say a word or two. From electrocuting Mel Gibson in Lethal Weapon to doing a bit of sword fighting as Genghis Khan in Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure, Leong was the go-to guy who would go on to become an absolute cult legend. In fact, fans play a game when the actor pops up in the movies after taking choreographed fights and brutal falls, and they point to him and say, "Oh man, that's him!" Leong is the iconic henchman who made the action stars believable with his cool mannerisms and unrelenting style. Gerald Okamura as another Wing Kong Hatchet Man. Another actor you might have missed in the chaotic universe of Big Trouble in Little China is the iconic Gerald Okamura. With his flowing robes, braided beard, and arched eyebrows, Okamura is right there with Leong as one of the enforcers of Lo Pan. But Gerald Okamura brought something to this genre of cinema for decades, an undeniable presence, be it the villain or the villain's minion. With a black belt in multiple disciplines, martial artist Gerald Okamura has been in films like Samurai Cop, The Shadow, G.I. Joe: The Rise of Cobra, and even Blade. And yes, the credits clearly show the range of work he's done. From the worst of the worst to the most badass action films, where he appears as a character that looks like it stepped right out of a comic book. In fact, the actor is quite popular in pop culture circles, as he's known as the man with the golden guns, and is an absolute favorite in the Comic-Con circuit. Okamura proved that it's not just the sorcery or the explosions, but the faces and actions of actors like him that made the movie popular. George Chung as Chang Sing, number 6. Another face that you might remember that appeared in Big Trouble in Little China, who feels like someone who has appeared in many projects over the years, is George Chung. The actor lends his hand to some of the high-energy action in the film. Even though he doesn't have any lines, he would end up appearing in many projects in the years that followed. A rare actor that has been allowed to showcase his range as a tough guy, a soldier, a gangster, or a martial arts expert, he's appeared in hits like Rambo: First Blood Part 2, Rush Hour, Lethal Weapon 4, and even The A-Team. He also made appearances in comedies like Seinfeld and The Drew Carey Show that just show he knows how to become a memorable character with his appearance. Even though the opportunities might look very one-note, George Chung plays his part and makes them human in just a few scenes. Carrie Hiroyuki Tagawa as Wing Kong Swordsman uncredited. The creators of Mortal Kombat have time and again confirmed that Big Trouble in Little China was one of their main sources of inspiration. And there's a chance that this might have had more depth than we considered. Before he was the scene-stealing and smirking Shang Tsung, Carrie Hiroyuki Tagawa had an uncredited appearance in Big Trouble, lurking in the shadows waiting for his opportunity. It won't be surprising to imagine that Big Trouble was the spiritual origin story for everything Mortal Kombat became with its aesthetic. Carrie Hiroyuki Tagawa defined a villain with his appearance in the 1990 film Mortal Kombat, and the actor seems to have taken some notes from James Hong's Lo Pan in terms of defining the very idea of a villain. The actor's delivery and performance were always regal, menacing, charismatic, and strangely elegant, but his journey was not limited to the outworld, as the actor had quite a filmography and some of the biggest roles under his belt. He appeared as an unforgettable villain in projects like Rising Sun, The Phantom, License to Kill, and even Pearl Harbor, while having strong appearances on the small screen with Hawaii Five-0 and The Man in the High Castle. His performances range from a Yakuza boss to a mysterious mystic, and yet the actor never phones it in, delivering each of these roles with more gravitas than ever. Carrie Hiroyuki Tagawa actually became the very representation of a cultural fusion between Eastern mysticism and the Western genre storytelling with his performances, and it's something that just never disappears, but burns through the screen. It's amazing to talk about his legend in the legacy of Big Trouble in Little China, because, in a way, the actor has made a legacy of his own. Marvelous verdict. It's almost poetic that Big Trouble in Little China has marked the appearance of some of these iconic actors, because the movie opened the doors to them while paving the way for genre mashups. It's almost impossible to avoid discussing how the movie is one of the biggest influences on action films that have come out since, and that too in a variety of imaginable aspects. If you liked our content, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe to us if you haven't already. Have a good one and be safe. Thanks everyone!